All right, let's jump right into this. EASA has just rolled out Airworthiness Directive 2025-0206R1. This is a big one, a critical safety update for the Rolls-Royce Trent 1000 engine. So in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what this AD means for operators, from the risks they've found to the actions you need to take. Here's what we're covering. First, we'll look at the unsafe condition that got this whole thing started. Then, we'll pinpoint exactly which engines and aircraft are affected. After that, we'll dive into the required actions for compliance, and finally, we'll talk about the overall impact on both safety and day-to-day operations. So, first things first, why was this AD even issued? Let's get right to the heart of the risk that the regulators are trying to get ahead of. Okay, the core problem here is something EASA is calling in-service deterioration of the high-pressure turbine blades. Now, this isn't just your standard wear and tear. We're talking about a specific kind of degradation that's happening outside of what normal maintenance plans would catch, and that's why it needs this special targeted intervention. And this is where it gets really serious. EASA lays it out in black and white, and they don't mince words. They say that if this condition isn't found and fixed, it could lead to blade failure, which could then cause an engine to shut down in mid-flight, ultimately resulting in reduced control of the aircraft. That's the exact chain of events this AD is designed to prevent. You can really see the domino effect here. It all starts with tiny cracks developing on the HPT blade. If that's not caught, it can lead to a full-on blade failure. From there, you're looking at a potential in-flight shutdown, and in the absolute worst-case scenario, it could compromise the pilot's control of the plane. Every single step here is a critical link in the safety chain. Okay, so who needs to be on high alert for this one? Let's dig into the applicability to see exactly which engines and operators are in the scope of this directive. This AD covers a really wide range of the Rolls-Royce Trent 1000 family. As you can see, we're talking about the AE3, CE3, and D3 variants, all the way through the G3, H3, J3, K3, L3, M3, and even the N3, P3, Q3, and R3 models. It's a comprehensive list. And here's a detail you absolutely cannot miss. This isn't limited to a specific production run or a small batch of serial numbers. Nope. This directive applies to all serial numbers of those engine models we just listed. No exceptions. And to put all this into context, where do you find these engines? Well, the Trent 1000 is one of the main power plants for the global fleet of Boeing 787s, so that gives you a very clear picture of the aircraft we're focused on here. All right, let's get to the part everyone in camo, maintenance, and engineering is waiting for. What do you actually have to do to comply with this thing? First, we've got to get the terminology right, because it's super important. The AD makes a clear distinction between an affected part, that's the HPT blade, like part number cage 10575, that needs to be inspected, and a serviceable part, like part number cage 303037, which is the approved, good-to-go replacement. So the clock is ticking, and the ED lays out very specific deadlines for that first inspection. For engines that are pretty new, with less than 500 flight cycles, you need to get that inspection done before they hit 550 cycles. But for the higher time engines, those with 500 or more cycles, the timeline is way more urgent. You've got to get it done within just 50 flight cycles after October 6, 2025. And this, of course, is the million-dollar question for any maintenance crew, right? What's the game plan if one of your on-wing inspections actually finds a crack? VAD gives you a very clear tiered action plan, and it all comes down to the size of the crack. If you find a crack on the leading edge that's 3 millimeters or smaller, you go into a heightened watch mode. That means follow-up inspections every 10 flight cycles. If the crack is between 3 and 4 millimeters, the engine has to come off the wing within 10 cycles. And if you find a crack bigger than 4 millimeters, the action is immediate. No discussion. That engine has to be removed before the very next flight. Now, for operators who are not fans of doing these checks over and over again, there is a way out. It's called a terminating action. Basically, if you modify the engine according to the Rolls-Royce Service Bulletin, that's Trent 1000 72K335, you can put an end to these repetitive inspections for good on that engine. It's the long-term fix. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. What does all of this really mean for airworthiness and for the tough business of running an airline every day? When you boil it all down, the safety logic here is pretty straightforward. The hazard is an uncontrolled failure of an HPT blade. The fix, or mitigation, is this mandated program of repetitive inspections and replacements. It's a textbook case of proactive safety management in action. From an operational standpoint, the impacts are huge. This is way more than just a minor inconvenience. We're talking about an increased maintenance burden, sure, but also the very real threat of an unscheduled engine removal, which can easily lead to a costly aircraft on-ground situation. This puts a massive strain on your supply chain to have parts ready, and it's a huge coordination headache for planning teams. Simply put, missing these deadlines isn't an option. So let's wrap this all up. Who's affected? Operators of those specific Trent 1000 engines, mostly found on the Boeing 787. What do you have to do? A strict program of repetitive inspections, with follow-up actions that depend entirely on what you find. And when does it need to be done? You have to follow those strict flight cycle deadlines and compliance times laid out in the AD. And look, I really can't stress this enough. While this explainer gives you a solid overview, it is absolutely no substitute for the official documents. Every operator must refer to the official EASA AD text and all the related Rolls-Royce service bulletins to ensure full compliance. They are the final word.
Subscribe to AEROPODA YouTube channel.